After the weekend's results, Spurs are 5th in the Premier League, 13 points away from league leaders Arsenal, and they have played a game less. Dejan Kulusevski to have a scan on his muscle injury on Monday. Tottenham Hotspur legend Glenn Hoddle has come out and said that Son and Kane had a day off against Aston Villa, and that is the worst he has seen them play together. Pundit Graham Souness has come out and said that Hugo Lloris is past his sell-by date, and former Tottenham Hotspur midfielder Jamie Redknapp has come out and said, I can see cracks appearing. I think Antonio Conte is looking for an exit clause. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all keeping well. This is another edition of Tottenham News, where I'll be going through all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that subscribe button and leave a review if you can. Now, let's start by talking about the two results in the Premier League from Sunday afternoon. Of course, our game at Tottenham Hotspur 0, Aston Villa 2. And the other game, Nottingham Forest 1, Chelsea 1. Tottenham Hotspur are next in action on Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. kickoff, as we will be travelling away at Crystal Palace. Now, after Sunday's results, Tottenham Hotspur are 5th in the Premier League. We have now played 17 matches. We have won 9, we have drawn 3, and we have lost 5. We have a goal difference of +8. We have 30 points. We are now 13 points away from our North London rivals Arsenal, who are top, and they have played a game less. Now, straight after, Tottenham Hotspur lost 2-0 at home against Aston Villa. Former midfielder Jamie Redknapp was talking on Sky Sports and said, I don't like the way that this is shaping up with Antonio Conte and Daniel Levy. I can see cracks appearing, Mauricio Pochettino in the wings. I don't feel this is going to end up the way it should do. He went on to talk about the January transfer window and said that's not the kind of business that they want to do. They want to buy good young players, improve them, and then try and sell them on. Redknapp then added, I'm a big fan of Antonio Conte, but I think that there is going to be a fallout pretty soon. He's definitely searching for something right now, Antonio Conte, and it looks like he's looking for an exit clause. Former Premier League manager, now TV and radio pundit Graham Souness has been talking about Hugo Lloris, about his performance against Aston Villa on Sunday, and said, I'm not a big fan of Lloris. I've said it for a long time. I think since the start of last season, he's made 4 errors that have led to goals. That's the worst record in the Premier League for goalkeepers. For me, he is past his sell-by date. Tottenham Hotspur legend Glenn Hoddle has spoken out about Heung-min Son and Harry Kane and their performances against Aston Villa on Sunday, and said that is the worst I've seen them play together in the same team. They were totally off it, and I think the whole team was. The shape didn't change. Antonio Conte plays that week in, week out, but there was no urgency in the passing. They looked like a team with chains on them. Hoddle then went on to say there is a lack of confidence there. That's the problem at home. I played there for many years. It's a demanding crowd, and if the early stages don't go well, they can get on the back of the players. They get on top of you, and you have to be strong-minded at times. I think that filtered onto the pitch. You can't blame the crowd because they were seeing the lack of quality. Spurs were lacking in that quality, and when your quality players are not playing because they're injured, or the two that were on, Kane and Son, have a day off, somebody else has to play up front. They haven't got that. They haven't got that depth in the squad in this moment in time. The next game coming along is Crystal Palace away. They have got a lot of work to do. They have got to respond. It won't be an easy game at Selhurst Park. A report has just been published by The Athletic, and they have provided an injury update on Dejan Kulusevski, who of course missed the Aston Villa game on New Year's Day at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium due to a small muscle injury. He was a surprise absentee from Antonio Conte's matchday squad for Sunday's game, and the Sweden international will have a scan on his injury, and it is hoped that he will only miss 1 game. Of course, Tottenham's next game comes on the 4th of January against Crystal Palace. Now it's another very busy week of Premier League action. On Monday evening, Brentford will take on Liverpool. 4 games will take place on Tuesday. Arsenal will play Newcastle, Everton against Brighton, Leicester City will play Fulham, and Manchester United will play Bournemouth. Another 4 games on Wednesday evening. Southampton against Nottingham Forest, Leeds will play West Ham, Aston Villa against Wolves, and Crystal Palace will, of course, take on Spurs, 8 p.m. kickoff. And then on Thursday, Chelsea will play Manchester City. After Spurs lost to Aston Villa 2-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday, Antonio Conte come out and said that it was a miracle that Spurs finished in the top 4 last season and believes that there are unrealistic expectations on Spurs. This is what he had to say.
I have not to think about which are the expectations. I know which is the reality. You understand? Because I'm a head coach. I live the club every day. I know which is the situation. I know the vision of the club. And the club knows very well which is my thoughts about the situation. And the situation was very clear. I continue to work to improve and to help you to improve the club, to create a foundation, a solid foundation, and then to develop. And at the start of the season, I was very, very clear with the club. I said, okay, we can be competitive to win, but try to continue to improve and in the way that we can do it. Because also, and you have to know that there are clubs that can invest 200, 300 millions, and then the other clubs that they have a different politic. And I repeat, you have to respect the politic. The most important thing that the politic has to be very clear of the people. Otherwise, we create expectation, and that is not positive. It's not positive for the environment.
Now, my thoughts on these stories in this episode, I tell you what, it is so frustrating. Tottenham Hotspur 0, Aston Villa 2. That was poor. That was very, very poor. That is probably the worst display under Antonio Conte yet. Definitely in the Premier League. That was poor. Really, really poor. We miss Kulusevski. We miss Bentancur. As soon as some of our key players are out of this team, it is so notable. It really, really is. And it just goes to show, what work we need to do in the January transfer window and future windows. As I've said on this channel many, many times, and I don't want to keep repeating myself, back Antonio Conte, back him. You're bringing in a world-class manager who has been there, done it, got the T-shirt, won trophies everywhere he's gone. You have to trust him. You've got to back this manager and give him players that he needs. Because I tell you what, as soon as we have a couple of injuries, of course, Richarlison's out injured as well. I know we've been unlucky with injuries, but as soon as you take a couple of players out of this team, we have no depth. Yes, we've done a lot of business in the summer. I said even when the window closed, I felt that we were still a couple of players away. We should have done more. But of course, that is the story of our transfer windows. We should always do more. We always want more as fans. But, as I say, you take a couple of key players out and we have no depth. And you look at that bench as well against Aston Villa. There were no game changers there. Of course, Bryan Hill started in a Spurs shirt for the very first time in the Premier League. He done okay. Antonio Conte come out after the game and said that he was pleased with the performance, which I was a little bit surprised about. People are calling for the players having no passion. People are calling, of course, for the board to back Antonio Conte. A lot of people are calling for Antonio Conte to go. Personally, I'm in the camp that I want Antonio Conte to stay. I think he's a world-class manager. And I just think that if you give him the players that he wants in his system, that he knows that is going to work, I think that we will be very successful. What's the chances of him being backed fully in the January transfer window? He's hinting heavily that he's not going to be backed and we're not going to match his ambition. He's hinting that heavily ever since ever since these players have come back from the World Cup, and of course we've been back in Premier League action. It's frustrating, and of course the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday wasn't a nice place to be. It really wasn't. The atmosphere was absolutely awful. Look at the pundits, what they're saying. Redknapp, I can see cracks appearing. I think Antonio Conte is looking for an exit clause. Souness, Hugo Lloris is past his best. Of course, we know that we need to address that situation at some point. It won't be in the January transfer window. Glenn Hoddle has spoken out about Heung-min Son and Harry Kane having a day off. Oh, it's just so frustrating. It really is. And it's going to be such an interesting January transfer window, as I say, because we've got a world-class manager. You need to give him what he needs if we're going to be successful. If we do not give Antonio Conte what he needs into this team, then what? I know a lot of people at the moment are calling for Mauricio Pochettino coming back. I'm Pochettino's biggest fan. I love Pochettino, but I tell you what, he isn't the answer right now. It isn't the answer. Antonio Conte needs to be backed, and it needs to happen. 100%. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that subscribe button and leave a review if you can. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, come on you Spurs.